Good morning, everyone. This is a pretty thrilling day for us because it's another milestone in the progress of connecting the great city of San Francisco from one end to the other. It's about economic development, it's about clean environment, it's about building consensus. And I'm sure the mayor will agree, having served as mayor, but before that as chief administrative officer, that it took years of consensus building to get to this point of 3rd Street Rail, Central Subway, thousands of hours of volunteers coming together to make their point of view known. I think we've been through almost 5 presidents on the totality of this project, but making progress again every step of the way. All along, I would say to whoever we were appealing to, our hopes are riding on the 3rd Street Rail and our hopes are riding on the Central Subway for all that we want to do for our city. To be a model to the country of economic development while we again improve the quality of life, increase commerce, and create good paying jobs for many people. Today is a sad day for many of us because of the loss of Robin Williams. And I was thinking, coming over, Mayor, that we were together in 2012 with Ray LaHood for another phase of this. We were all together with Ray LaHood, the Secretary of Transportation representing the President. And while we were listening attentively to each other's speeches, we were also on our iPhones watching the last of the games that would determine who would be in the playoffs. And while we were celebrating the construction, we were cheering the victory of the Giants that day to go on to the World Series. And Robin Williams, back to him, was a great Giants fan. My daughter Christine was reminding me this morning that after 9/11 in 2001, that was really by and large the first time the tradition of singing God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch took place. Some may have done it other times, but as a tradition across our country. And Robin Williams is a great Giants fan, and in 2001, you didn't know he was a singer, I guess, but in 2001, he sang God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch. So the world has lost a genius. San Francisco has lost a loyal friend, and we all mourn that loss, but take joy in the great contributions to life and happiness that he made. A few weeks ago on the steps of the Capitol, House Democrats launched our Middle Class Jumpstart as an initiative to, again, create good-paying jobs here in our country, to reward work, to recognize that innovation and entrepreneurship begins in the classroom, so to make college affordable and early childhood education a strong start for children on that path. And in some ways, the heart of the matter, when women succeed, America succeeds. Our version of womenomics to grow our economy by increasing the role of women in it. This week, each week we're taking a piece of it. This week is focused on the Make It in America piece. Make It in America, where we say we want American-made, reward companies that invest in job creation, good-paying jobs here in America by removing tax credits to send jobs overseas, which is what the law is now. It's ridiculous, but it is the law, and we want to overturn it. With the savings we get there, we want to invest in building America. Building the infrastructure, and that means roads, bridges, certainly mass transit, water supply, broadband, the infrastructure of the future. So this is the Jobs Week, the pillar that we're emphasizing all over the country. What better place to start than here, where so much of this innovation has begun. It has combined what we talked about earlier in the mayor's leadership, great consensus building over time with the community involvement. I've always said to the city, I want to give you every option that you want, but if we allocate the resources, we need dirt to fly. We don't need court cases. So this consensus building over time has been very, very central to our success. And of course, the Recovery Act that President Obama took the lead on made an essential difference in our being able to get hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, nearly $1 billion for the completion of this project now. While it started mostly with local and state funding under the leadership of so many leaders you see here. So I'm honored to be here with the mayor to put in perspective how important this jumpstart for the middle class is and how important building infrastructure is to that jumpstart. Right now, there's a stalling of the middle class because there's a stalling of these kinds of initiatives. We want to remove that. We want it to be nonpartisan. We want it to be bipartisan, whatever it takes, because we know the American people overwhelmingly support initiatives that improve the quality of their lives, promote commerce, get their product to and from market, their employees to and from work and to home, and to, again, protect the environment as we do so, as we create jobs. But we have to build consensus to do that. So I salute the people of San Francisco and the Bay Area for the role that they played over the years, really decades, to make many of the projects that are emerging now project. 3rd Street Rail connecting Viz Valley, Bayview Hunters Point with Chinatown. The Transbay Terminal, endless in its interconnections. The Presidio Parkway, most of these long time in the planning and consensus building, many of them possible because of President Obama's recognition that building the infrastructure of America is essential to growing our economy. And with that, I'm pleased to yield this podium to a very, oh, by the way, did I introduce Thomas and Paul? They are, construction is their game. They know about machinery that I don't know about, but they're teaching me, and they very much wanted to see how it was all going, my Paul and my grandchildren from New York. They've ridden on the subway, so they wanted to see how one was built here in California. They're my special VIPs today. Now it's my pleasure and honor to yield to the distinguished mayor of San Francisco. As I have said, in his role as mayor and before that as chief administrative officer, he knows how to get the job done. This is an operational mayor, and it's no mystery as to how, when he became mayor, he continued the great work of previous mayors, but he was effective from the start because he was getting the job done working with those mayors before. So thank you, Mayor, for honoring us with your leadership, with your presence here today. I yield to the distinguished Mayor of San Francisco.
Well, thank you, Leader Pelosi, and it's just a delight to have you here. Also, with these young kids, Michael, I think we can get them a union card right away. I think they're old enough to do that. I am delighted, and I think Leader Pelosi is absolutely right, and she's chosen, I think, one of the most exemplary projects that this country has seen, and certainly our city has seen. I'm here today with the San Francisco MTA commissioners, the planning commissioners that have been part of this project, our Made in SF leader, Katie Sophus is here as well, and it's just a milestone after milestone when in the backdrop, this Central Subway project has been so important. I remember, Leader Pelosi, I remember when we began this conversation in those early years and we're trying to figure out how we could access the American Recovery Act to really be a jump start for us in San Francisco. We needed it at the time of the height of the Great Recession. And boy, did it really come at a right time. And when those initial investments made, and now we're at over $1 billion on this project, you see what has come about. This project has been one of the critical foundations for why today, a few years later, we can boast about a 4.5 unemployment rate in San Francisco. Putting Americans to work is just so important. And this project is being done just a couple of months ago. Ed Reiskin and I, along with so many others, were up in North Beach looking at the tunnel boring machines and helping them get out of the ground. A huge milestone for this project. And it's continued to be a safe project. The men and women that are working on this project know about safety when they're tunneling very deep underground and making sure that this station, along with Union Street and Square Station, along with the Chinatown station, be done. In fact, we're doing so well that the conversation in Northeast has literally changed. And they want this tunnel all the way to Fisherman's Wharf. Well, that's why Leader Pelosi is here today. You know, we need to brag about more of the success stories that these kinds of projects, not only jobs, not only the investments that we made, but you look at the 850,000 hours of construction hours that are logged on this project so far. You look at its investment in small businesses. Leader, over $275 million has been contracted to small business enterprises because of this project. This is done well. It's done right. It's using local people here that have been trained to work on these projects, and it sits right across from one of the best convention centers in the world. And it continues to feed that great hospitality industry that is at the head of a lot of our industries in San Francisco, hiring more people in all the hotels and all the visitors conventions. So I'm very proud for a multitude of reasons, but the story began with people taking some risk here, risk for American workers. And that's why we want to talk about Build America Act bonds that Leader Pelosi is talking about. This exemplifies the very fact of why we need America to continue building, because we can build more roads, build more bridges. We can take this to clean energy and solar arrays and other types of buildings that America needs. We could take this so much further, and that's why Make It in America Act and all of the principles that go along with that is such a good story. And this project exemplifies all of those attributes. And at the very same time, we can have a national conversation about raising people's minimum wage, the lowest wage earners in the country. We're doing that right here in San Francisco. We have that on the ballot. But we did it in a way in which it honors laborers, and honors businesses, it honors our communities and the people that work at nonprofits and small businesses. We brought them all together to do it the right way. And America can do that with Leader Pelosi's help and the leadership of our president. I know that they will have an opportunity to raise the minimum wage for all of American workers, so they see this hope beginning right here and all across the country. So Build America Bonds Act, the Make It in America Act, and I know Ed Reiskin is going to talk a little bit about that, but I want to just introduce to you someone who I've had the pleasure of working very closely together to get all this done. He's going to always be the guy that gets things done on time and within budget. Despite challenges along the way, we're going to be able to do that. But he gets to work with an incredible array of agencies that are committed at the same time, not just to build, but to do it in a way in which it honors everybody's interest, to build, to get more jobs out there, to get it to the right people, to help our needy, and make sure we raise the minimum wage. I give you, and I yield to him, the director of our SFMTA, Ed Reiskin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Leader. The Central Subway really was a jumpstart for San Francisco when we started work here. And it really is, I think, a great demonstration of the kind of infrastructure investment that we're capable of achieving here in these great United States. A project like this doesn't just happen, though, and I think that the leader made reference to the fact that we've been through many presidential terms since the work on this started. We've been through many secretaries of transportation, many mayors, but Leader Pelosi has, from the start, been a steadfast champion for this project and is really one of the key reasons that we're able to stand here and demonstrate to San Francisco, to the region, the state, and the country what great progress we're making. This project, which is critically important to the future of transportation and therefore the future of the economy of our city, is making great progress. We've completed the tunneling, $235 million contract. The tunneling work got done ahead of schedule, created lots of jobs in the process. Behind us, you see the Yerba Buena Moscone Station, which will connect directly to the Moscone Convention Center, which will be start its expansion later this year. But most critically, we'll be making the connections. This Central Subway is phase 2 of the T3 light rail. The first phase was completed in 2007. which restored light rail service to Southeast San Francisco after a 50-year hiatus. Central Subway will come underground just a few blocks south of here and burrow under the city, connecting the southeast of the city to the most densely populated neighborhood in the western United States. The day the Central Subway opens for business, it'll be the busiest light rail line in the city. And again, just a clear demonstration that with the right planning and the right leadership, we can make investments that are going to really help our cities, that are going to really help our economy, but then in the meantime are going to put people to work and maybe inspire future generations to jobs. So I do want to acknowledge my board. They're the ones who have to make the hard decisions about budgets and schedules and contracts. We have a great chairman of the board, Tom Nolan, Vice Chair Cheryl Brinkman, board members Jerry Lee and Gwyneth Borden have joined us. They're working hard with us every day, and I want to acknowledge Cindy Wu of the Planning Commission, but also one of those early community leaders who was working with the mayor long before he was mayor to make sure that we were able to get this kind of investment right into San Francisco. And we're extremely supportive and grateful for the leadership that Leader Pelosi is bringing on the national stage. We're trying to demonstrate here locally what this kind of investment can do. We'll be asking San Francisco voters in November to consider Prop A, a $500 million general obligation bond that, like the Central Subway investment, will create jobs in the short term and great transportation benefits in the long term. So we're very pleased to be able to demonstrate to the country what we can do in terms of investing in our infrastructure and creating jobs and connecting our communities. So I want to thank all the folks who have joined us today. And now I have the great honor of bringing forward a woman who's really been a force for job creation in San Francisco. The Central Subway, like all of our federally funded projects, is subject to the Buy America laws, which make sure that everything that we're sourcing comes from the United States. But we have our own version of that here through SF Made, which is an organization that's really devoted to growing and nurturing and supporting and protecting local manufacturing and local production. And we're lucky to have that organization led by someone who wakes up every day living and breathing, figuring out how to get more San Francisco production into our economy, to get more San Francisco people working. So I'm very pleased to be able to welcome up the Executive Director of SF Made, Kate Sophus.
Good morning. So I want to talk about San Francisco as a national model for a maker city. You know, as I thought about standing here today talking about manufacturing, building, it's really all kindred spirits. We are talking about reclaiming the potential for urban areas of this country to house this vibrancy of industry, of workers, of the innovation and creative class that cities like San Francisco have, all brought together under one shared roof. And I think for me, that's the power in what we see happening today. When I look at a project like the Central Subway project, I not only see construction jobs, I see a transformation of the cityscape, but it's very meaningfully connected to a commitment to public transit, and that feeds every sector of the city, including manufacturing. Our sectors in this city, we have 540 active manufacturers now. That is almost, I will say, double the number of manufacturers we had since SF Made launched in the heart of the recession. I also want to say that when we talk about national programs like Make It in America, the very first program that directly benefited this sector was the original Jobs Now, which I have to give props 20 times to Leader Pelosi for her leadership in that program. Jobs Now, if you remember, the original version almost acted like an apprenticeship program. Through that program, manufacturers and other sectors across the city placed individuals who were chronically underemployed from communities in our city that continue to need jobs, and we were able to have them in those jobs for up to a year with a subsidized wage. And do you know, even after the laudable efforts to try to continue that program were not successful, that 80% of the people placed in that program in the manufacturing sector were retained by their employers. So apprenticeship does work. And I just want to put a word out that whatever we could do to continue as we look at packages to move forward, to have more federal support for paid apprenticeships that go directly to connect low-income individuals with jobs in small businesses, including manufacturers, would be money well spent. So that said, going back to this maker economy we've created together, I can't echo enough Ed Reiskin's hope that what we're doing here is creating a national model. We're creating a model around infrastructure. We're creating a model around how to connect the diverse populations of a city back with manufacturing. And we're honestly setting a model that other cities are looking to for how we re-energize the next generation and inspire them that a construction job, a role as an entrepreneur to start your own brewery, or working creating crafted bags at places like Timbuktu, who draws a large percentage of their workforce from Chinatown, and who will have a direct access now for their workers to get to work through this extension, that we are reimagining for the next generation what it means to be a maker. At SF Made, we are so proud to be on the forefront of that. I also want to credit Mayor Lee and the City of San Francisco for really providing national leadership. Mayor Lee is an official maker mayor. And we actually saw for the first time the White House hosting a maker fair. And so, you know, the spotlight is on us. We have a national alliance now called the Urban Manufacturing Alliance. San Francisco is a co-founder of that organization. And so let's show the rest of the country what's possible by modeling it here in San Francisco. So keep up the great work, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Kate, congratulations to you on the success of San Francisco Made. When we first came together, we were talking about women making brownies, candies, children's clothes. Now they're building central subways and non-traditional businesses for women, and it's just remarkable. And under Mayor Gavin Newsom's leadership, the Jobs Now initiative was so successful, and it took up many, many, many of the jobs for California, but because we were so in the lead. The mayor continued that, of course, and what was important about it is that you had mentoring, and we would go to the centers where young people were being mentored. You'd see them in the workplace where they were hired. You'd see the satisfaction of their employer. Every step of the way, it was a big success, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. And I want to pay tribute to our friends in labor. Mike, thank you over and over again for your support of all of this. Central, to borrow a word, central to much of this is raising the minimum wage, and San Francisco has been on the forefront of that, and then the state of California as well. But on the ballot, we have that initiative to raise the minimum wage. That is important because we want to value work. As we attract people and draw them in, train them, we want them to be able to have a decent wage. But it's essential to our economy, because that money is spent almost immediately by people who are on the margin, spent immediately, injecting demand into the economy, creating jobs. So it's one of the most important stimuli to the economy that you can name. It all comes together in this initiative. It all comes together on these projects. So we're very, very excited about it. And San Francisco Made has been the fastest growing part of our economy are women and minority-owned businesses. And San Francisco, again, leads the way in that regard. Next week, we'll be talking and focusing on education. The week after that, on Women Equality Day, we'll be talking about when women succeed, America succeeds. But all of them are connected. And I just want to say, because the mayor mentioned the Build America bonds, and Ed did as well, the Build America bonds initiative we had in place when the president took office. So many initiatives were started around that. It so happened at the time the interest rates were low, so municipalities and states were able to reap enormous benefits. They have expired. Part of our agenda is to renew the Build America bonds so that we can take advantage of those opportunities to build the infrastructure of America. So I thank the people of San Francisco for their involvement all over time, individually, officially, through boards, commissions, and of course, through the mayor's office. But this has been public-private partnership. It's been grassroots. It's been labor and business and management. It's been a collaborative effort, and that's what makes it a success. That's what makes it a model for the nation. So thank you, San Francisco, once again. Thank you. You want to take some questions? Your question? Yeah. Well, I really am not familiar with the exact particulars, and I'm not current on what that arrangement is. I do think the governor has tried very hard to keep good-paying jobs here in our country, I mean our state of California. I don't think it should have to be a choice that harms the environment as we grow the economy. But the production of batteries is really an important initiative, and with the hope that ultimately that will protect the environment as well. Again, we're here to talk about local and national. I don't want to speak to any characterization of the governor's actions because I'm not that familiar with them. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that. But I support the governor's efforts to keep good-paying jobs here in the state, to be thinking in an entrepreneurial way, but also to have the balance between growing the economy and protecting the environment. That is essential to us. And as the mayor said in his remarks, it's not only essential and a balance we should achieve, it is a formula for success. All of the things we're talking about here are being done in an environmentally sound way. All the things we're talking about here are about reducing emissions, about moving people, taking them out of their cars and moving people. All of it is, as Ed said, about Buy American, the label, Made in America, on it. And we want all of those things to be green technologies so that at the end of the day we have a zero carbon footprint to the extent possible. So this is not just one of the considerations. It is a fundamental value about how we do this in an ecologically and environmentally sound way. Mr. Mayor, did you want to say something about that?
I also think that infrastructure, for California now, it's also going to be the water infrastructure that we need to really think and fund. And that's a current debate that's in Sacramento now, but I agree wholeheartedly with Leader Pelosi's answer, and I think some recognition has to be made to exactly what Tesla is actually manufacturing for the future. If it helps with greenhouse gas emission, we ought to give an extra consideration to that product.
Mr. Mayor, we're here talking about the middle class today. A lot of studies have come out showing that San Francisco is actually one of the leading cities in the country in terms of income inequality. And I'm wondering, how do we address that and how do we reverse that trend? Even with the minimum wage by 2018, it'll still be about half as much as it would require to afford a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco.
For those who didn't hear that, it's about income inequality. I say this, that these union jobs, and I know Mike Terrio knows this better than anybody else here, are middle-class jobs for workers that want to just earn their way forward. And I think the more projects that we have that are infrastructure related, that are transportation related, that are water infrastructure related, or good-paying jobs that I expect Tesla to pay, are all part of reestablishing and making sure we don't lose that middle class. This is the whole, I think, purpose of the Buy America Bonds Act and Make It in America. Is really reestablishing what we have for that middle class, and we need to do more. I think in San Francisco we need to simply do more, and part of my responsibility is to build enough housing aimed at that sector along with helping our low-income sector.
If If I just may say, I didn't go into this in the interest of time, but another piece of our Make It in America. One piece is to stop tax breaks to companies that send jobs overseas, instead have tax breaks for companies that produce good-paying jobs here in America. Another piece is build the infrastructure of America. But a third piece of it is the following. If you are a company that wants to raise the pay of your CEO and you want to go above $1 million a year, you cannot take an additional tax, you cannot write that off unless you also give a raise to your employees. Because the income inequality is a reality, it's a growing gap, and it's something that must be addressed. So we can use the tax code to say, okay, we don't resent success. We recognize that some people take risks, they're entrepreneurial, they may be worthy of that increase, but it's not going to be subsidized by the American people by giving an increased tax write-off. If you want to do that, you have to give a raise to your employees. This is thinking in a different way. We have the bill, Chris Van Hollen, we have the bill on every one of these things. In the first 100 days of a Democratic majority, we would pass these pieces of legislation. But this one goes right to the heart of your question, because what is happening now, it's important to note, this is structural, it's not anecdotal, it's real, is that, say, go back 40 years ago, the disparity between the CEO and the workers was about 40 times, around 40 times, right, Mike? And as productivity rose, CEO pay rose, and workers' pay rose. So it went together, productivity, CEO pay, worker raise. That was called stakeholder capitalism, where when you made a decision as a corporation, you made it in terms of certainly investors, certainly workers, certainly the community at large, your customers, the stakeholders in your community. Somewhere around a dozen or so years ago, maybe nearly 20, it became shareholder capitalism, which only had one thing, the bottom line. And that means that now, as productivity rises, workers' wages stagnate and the CEOs goes up like this. It's about, I say 350, others say 400 times the CEO pay versus the worker. It's a right angle going in the wrong direction. It must be addressed with, as I say, with all the respect in the world for success and achievement and reward for that in the workplace, but understand that that success sprang from another factor of protection, which is the worker. And if that bottom line is big and the CEO pay is big because of the exploitation of workers, well, we're just not going to underwrite it in the tax code. And that's why we have that piece in there. And I think that it will be something that applies all over the country. We are blessed in a city that everyone wants to live. The competition for space and this and that, it makes a great challenge for the mayor, but we're there to help him over time with probably more affordable housing coming into San Francisco, more initiatives, low-income housing tax credits, all kinds of initiatives, all kinds of projects, recognizing that here, Boston, Washington, D.C., some places where the cost of housing is prohibitive to having the balance of families, middle-income families in our city, which is something we value. Yes, ma'am.
Last question. Message here today, middle-class Jumpstart, made an effort to dramatize the differences between the Democratic agenda and Republicans and what's going on in Washington.
Well, I would say it is a difference, but it would be our hope, because elections are about two things. Elections are about who you elect to fill the job, and they're also about what the debate is, so the American people know what the choices are. So one thing that could happen is hearing a drumbeat for the minimum wage, maybe more Republicans will come on board. Hearing the desire, really the interest of the American people for building the infrastructure for America as they see it relate to the quality of their lives, the success of their businesses, that maybe it would change their minds. So we want to use the campaign as a time to say, where are you on the minimum wage? Where are you on equal work? Where are you on building the infrastructure of America? Where are you in cutting the interest rates in half on student loans so that more kids can have access? Where are you on Pell Grants? So jobs, education, and when women succeed America. Where are you on quality, affordable child care, paid sick leave, again, raising the minimum wage. So we would hope that the outcome of the election would be that they would embrace some of these ideas no matter who wins the election, but that the American people know that there are decisions that are made. We get rejected every time we bring up the minimum wage. Harry Reid gets rejected, he needs 60 votes every time he brings up equal pay for equal work or raising the minimum wage. But the fact is, it's one of the best things you can do to grow the economy is to increase the minimum wage. You all may not know a lot of people who make the minimum wage, or maybe you do. But I thank you for whatever you make for supporting the minimum wage, because it is about consumer power. And the raising the minimum wage gives consumer power, injects demand, creates jobs, grows the economy. So it's about growth. Where are you on growth? Whose side do you come down on in supporting growth? Just the bigger disparity in income, or everyone going down that path together? We're very excited about it. It's not all the things that anybody could think of that are of concern in a campaign, but it is about job creation, and that is the major concern of the American people. Thank you all very much. Thank you for being here.